Glad everybody can make it. So when we are done here, might have to hang tight for just a few minutes as Rochelle and Ramika, the rest of the kitchen staff, they will put food out on the table here, and it will be just you get in line and we will serve you the food. You have a seat in the dining area, the multi-purpose room. And then afterwards, don't run off because we've got gifts. I got a little game thing where we did last year where everybody liked it was we got cups with the tissue that kind of hide the prize inside. Could be candy, could be gift card. So we'll do that as well right afterwards. And then we'll have the movie upstairs. But I am very excited today because we are going to have a special performance of the Grinch. We've never done this before. And I'm going to let Marilyn kind of come up and say a couple words because she helped initiate this.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? Good. We have some fun today. I would like to introduce you to a new friend of mine. His name is Paul Stanbery, and he and I met in a very special healing place. And I had the opportunity at that time to hear him recite by memory, which I could never do, The Grinch Stole Christmas. And this is very much a part of his experience at Christmas time, and I invited him to come here, and he's going to perform for us this morning. So everybody, please welcome.
Thank you. So much talent in one room. I didn't expect that when Marilyn invited me to come this morning. In life, I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I have 6 children, 10 grandchildren, and my profession, the thing that pays the bills at home, is I'm the conductor of the Butler Philharmonic Orchestra, which is just north of us.
You're in the presence of greatness.
Oh, well, wait for about 10 minutes, then you. Okay. But I met Marilyn because I also have stage 4 lung cancer, and I was at UC Hospital at Westchester with Marilyn and her father about a month ago, and I had just, like maybe 2 or 3 weeks before that, had done this story for them. I do this every year, but they were doing a special presentation of Dr. Seuss stories. So I said, hey, one of your patients knows the Grinch, and I kind of acted out with voices and everything. And this started about 40 years ago, because my daughter, who's 42 now, has 3 little boys. When she was only 2 years old, any time of the year, she would want me to read a story, and she'd go over to the shelf, and she'd always pick the same book, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And she'd slam it on my lap, and she'd say, talk. And so we would. I'd turn the pages, and I'd say the words of the story, and it got to be, even at age 2, if I would turn a page, she could fill in the words of the story herself, and I've got a recording of that at home. So when she started having kids herself, I thought it'd be a nice time to reestablish that little tradition. The story really it's misinterpreted all the time in the media, because the story really is not about a mean guy, the Grinch. That everybody concentrates on him. Oh, look how terrible he is. What it really is a story of resurrection needed in the hearts of the people who lived in Whoville, who decided for their own reasons to exclude the Grinch from their society. And the reasons for them doing that are right in the story. It'll tell you, it could be perhaps that his shoes were too tight. So obviously he was probably a homeless person. Who wears shoes that don't fit other than people that don't have any other options, right? Right. And he lived just north of town in a cave on the side of Mount Crumpet. So he didn't have a home. He had to live in a cave. It could be perhaps that his head wasn't screwed on just right, the story says. So he had some emotional or mental challenges. You know, he was different than those people in Whoville. What other thing about him that was so obvious, though, that if you look at him, you can see it right away, that made him different than them, that would cause them to shun him? His color. What color was the Grinch?
Green.
He wasn't like the others in Whoville at all. And so the story kind of unfolds, and by the end, oh, thank you, dear. By the end, we find out that the real resurrection story, by the time the Grinch is welcomed in and carves the roast beast at the end, it's not him that's changed. It's the Who's down in Whoville. And so the story goes, every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot, but the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season. Now, please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be perhaps that his shoes were too tight. It could be his head wasn't screwed on just right. But I think the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. See, right there, it's not his heart that changes, it's the Who's. 2 sizes. But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve, hating the Who's, staring down from his cave with a sour, grinchy frown at the warm lighted windows below in their town, where he knew every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy now, hanging a mistletoe wreath. And they're hanging their stockings, he snarled with a sneer. Tomorrow's Christmas, it's practically here. For tomorrow he knew every Who girl and boy would wake bright and early, and they'd rush for their toys, and then, oh, the noise. Oh, the noise, 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 noise. Well, that's one thing the Grinch hated. The noise, noise, noise. Noise. Good timing. Then the Who's, young and old, would sit down to a feast. And they'd feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, 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 feast. They would feast on Who pudding and rare Who roast feast, which was something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least. Then they'd do something he liked least of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and small, would stand close together with Christmas bells ringing. They'd stand hand in hand, and those Who's would start singing. And they'd sing, and they'd sing, and they'd sing, 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 sing. And the more the Grinch thought of this Who Christmas thing, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 53 years I've put up with it now. I must find some way to stop Christmas from coming, but how? Then he got an idea, an awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. I know just what to do, the Grinch laughed in his throat, and he made a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat. And he chuckled and clucked, what a great Grinchy trick! With this coat and this hat, I look just like St. Nick. All I need is a reindeer. The Grinch looked around, but since reindeer are scarce, there were none to be found. Did that stop the old Grinch? No, the Grinch simply said, if I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead. So he called his dog Max, and he took some red thread, he tied a big horn on the top of his head. Then he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks on a ramshackle sleigh, and he hitched up old Max. Get up! Snarled the Grinch. And that sleigh started down toward the homes where the Who's lay a snooze in their town. All their windows were dark. Quiet snow filled the air. All the Who's were all dreaming sweet dreams without care when he came to the first little house on the square. This is stop number 1, the old Grinchy Claus hissed, and he sprang to the roof, empty bags in his fist. Then he slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch, but if Santa could do it, then so could the Grinch. He got stuck only once for a moment or two, and he stuck his head out of the fireplace flue, where the little Who stockings all hung in a row. These stockings, he grinned, are the first things to go. Then he slithered and slunk with a smile most unpleasant around the whole room, and he took every present. Pop guns and bicycles, roller skates, drums, checkerboards, tricycles, popcorn and plums. He stuffed them in bags, and the Grinch very nimbly stuffed all those bags one by one up the chimbley. Chimbley, not chimney, but chimbley. That he slunk to the icebox. He took the Who feast, he took the Who pudding, he took the roast feast. He cleaned out that icebox as quick as a flash. Why, that Grinch even took their last can of Who hash. He stuffed all that food up the chimney with glee. And now, grinned the Grinch, I will stuff up the tree. So the Grinch grabbed the tree and he started to shove when he heard the small sound like the coo of a dove. He turned around fast and he saw a small Who, little Cindy Lou Who is not more than 2. The Grinch had been caught by this tiny Who daughter who'd got out of bed for a cup of cold water. She stared at the Grinch and said, "Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why?" But you know that old Grinch was so smart and so slick. He thought up a lie, and he thought it up quick. Why, my sweet little tot, the fake Santa Claus lied. There's a light on this tree that won't light on one side, so I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, and then I'll bring it back here. And his fib fooled the child, and he patted her head, and he got her a drink and sent her to bed. And when Cindy Lou Who went to bed with her cup, he went to the chimney and stuffed the tree up. The last thing he took then was the log for their fire. On their walls he left nothing but hooks and some wire. And the one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that was even too small for a mouse. Then he did the same thing to the other Who's houses, leaving crumbs much too small for the other Who's mouses. It was dawn. All the Who's still abed. All the Who's still a snooze when he packed up his sled. Packed it up with the ribbons, the wrappings, the tags and the tinsel, the trimmings, the trappings. 3,000 feet up the side of Mount Crumpet, he rode with his load to the tip-top to dump it. Pooh-pooh to the Who's, he's graciously humming. They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up. I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open a moment or two. Then the Who's down in Whoville will all cry, boo-hoo. That's a noise, grinned the Grinch, that I simply must hear. So he paused, and the Grinch put a hand to his ear. And he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started in low, and then it started to grow. But this sound wasn't sad. Why, this sound sounded merry. Well, it couldn't be so, but it was merry, very. He stared down at Whoville. The Grinch popped his eyes, and he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. Well, he hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came. Somehow or other, it came just the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons, it came without tags, it came without packages, boxes, or bags. And he puzzled 3 hours till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. And What happened then? Well, in Whoville, they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes a day. But the minute his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with his load through the bright morning light. He brought back the toys and the food for the feast, and he himself, that Grinch, carved the roast feast. That's it. Let's stick with his green hand.
That was awesome.
It sure was.
Was that one more time? We really appreciate having Paul. I mean, that was fantastic.
That was
Sure was.
fantastic.
And if Paul's okay, are you okay with us putting it on our
Absolutely.
Facebook and
Oh, yeah.
webpage and all
Please
that?
share it, yes.
And if you don't mind, I'd like to book you for next year too.
You got it.
All right.